Hey, Sarah, we're back again, and I am so excited because today we're going to talk all about irritants, all those things that are not your favorite, that you don't know if you can exactly live with, that you're not sure if you really can handle. You've been handling it, but for a lifetime, is that really what I want for my partner? And do I have to? Like, what's the deal with this? You know what I mean? Like, really?
Ooh.
Like, is that for me?
Way to start us off on a light note, Aleeza. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. No, let's do this. This is important.
Yeah, this is really important. And I think sometimes we get into a relationship and we're with somebody and we're like, cool, like our values are aligned. What's important to you is also important to me. And what we want to do in life and in the future, like we're in sync and I really vibe with you. And maybe we even have like a great synergy, like a good energy. And so there's a lot of positives and there's things that are feeling good there. And then you do a couple of these funky kind of things. And I'm just sitting there going like,
Okay.
you think that's right? Like, I don't know. Let's talk about small little irritants. Like the way that you hold your fork, you're eating like you're a 3-year-old. Like you grab it.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
You know those people that just like grab and you're like, did nobody teach you how? I mean, like, listen, I'm from America, not from England. I'm not prim and proper, but like you gotta not hold a fork.
Hold on, Aleeza.
And like shovel it in your mouth.
Hold on. You see yourself in the camera, but for everyone who's listening, Aleeza literally wrapped her whole hand around the spoon. So instead of holding the spoon or fork properly, you know those people who just grab it like they're 3? I know I'm using my hand also. That's what Aleeza is doing.
It's so hard to explain.
Yeah.
You know, it's really, it's like what they call like the shovel, like where you're like just shoveling it in your mouth and like not with the shovel comes the head lean tilt. So I'm lowering my head to the plate so that my face is closer, or the lift the plate or bowl close to your mouth so it's closer. You can just shovel it in, right? And that might be a serious irritant for somebody. I mean, especially if somebody, I was joking about, you know, England or London and prim and proper, but it's true. Like there's a thing about manners, and different cultures and different communities have a different sensitivity and a different awareness to it. And so that could be something that's an irritant to a degree. I mean, how often is it an irritant? If you eat a couple times a day and you eat in front of each other, or if you go out to restaurants and you're super embarrassed, that could be something that's a pretty big irritant, even if there's so many things that I like about you. And you might be saying, but Aleeza, like, that's not a big deal. That's an irritant, but you could totally change that. How many years have they been eating like that and they didn't figure it out yet? I maybe you could change it, but in my view, we're going to run, like you could tell them something, but we're going to run with the fact that this is who they are. You could mention it, but if they never change, can you handle this? Can you live with this? Can you deal with this and not get irritated and upset with them all the time? Because they're not doing it to bother you. They were doing this long before you came into their life.
Right. And sometimes it's not even a behavior. Sometimes it's just a physical part of who they are. I can't stand squeaky voices. I have a really hard time with it. And that applies to men or women. And if I know you in real life and you have a squeaky voice, I probably still like you. No promises. But I really can't handle it when people just have this voice all the time. And if a guy that I was dating had that, and I don't even mean it in a feminine way, I just mean a high-pitched voice.
It would be a deal breaker for you.
Take it. Yeah, that would be a deal breaker for me. That would be a deal breaker. And some people are like, you're crazy. He's amazing. Yes, but that's an irritant that I cannot handle. Irritants are not always immediate deal breakers. Aleeza, how do we know if an irritant is a deal breaker or not?
That's a great question. So deal breakers, good job, Sarah. Deal breakers always go into the category of it breaks the deal, meaning no matter what good is there, I am not sticking around for this deal breaker. There is no way that I'm going to be okay with this, even though I might like the way that you look and dress and how you speak and how you carry yourself, and you might have a great job and we might have great energy, but this thing, I can't, I'm not okay with the way that you are today. I will never be okay with it. I will never come to just accept it and deal with it, right? An irritant is something that causes an irritation, some friction. So So just for example, if I have a little itch on my skin, right? That's an irritant. But if I have like a splinter or something stuck in me, that's an irritant, but to a higher degree, right? I might be able to live with an itch, but I probably can't live with something stuck under my skin. You know, like when people talk about things getting under your skin for a lifetime. But you could deal with a minor itch or a minor irritation. So you have to decide for yourself, is this just minor, or is this a really big irritant for me? And it wouldn't matter what they had. I would never get over this. And I would always be, and notice, I would always be trying to change that thing about them. Okay. And it's not your job to do that.
Okay. So let's get into an example of that. So what I hear you saying is that there are some things that are deal breakers. And again, like the red flags, they're not all subjective. I mean, most of them are subjective. And let's use smoking as an example, okay? Because here in America, most people don't smoke, and most people know how dangerous smoking is. So if they're smoking, usually they're thinking at some point about possibly quitting. We're not going to get into how realistic that is or not. But in other places in the world, it's like America 40 years ago, like Israel. Yes, Israel, Europe, where everyone smokes, and they start smoking as teenagers, and it's not even something that they hide. My husband smokes, and smoking was a deal breaker for me before I met him. So, ooh, you know what we should talk about after? What happens if you date someone who was a deal breaker, and if you had known in advance, you wouldn't have dated them, but then you started dating them? Okay, we'll get to that in a second. Well, let's just use it now. Okay, smoking, right? So my husband comes from a home where I was just with his family over Pesach, over Passover, and every person at their seat had a little candle in front of them. Because although you can't smoke on Shabbat, you can smoke on the holidays. So everyone had a little candle in front of them. So
they can light from an existing flame, so it wasn't a problem.
Around the Seder smoking. Everyone's sitting around the
By the way, that wasn't just a little while ago. That was like half a year ago.
Whoa. Yeah, good point.
I just want to say, yeah, the New Year's right around the corner.
So what was a deal breaker for me prior to me meeting my husband turned into something that I said, is this something I can handle? Yes, I know the health risks. Yes, I know that I hate the smell. Yes, I know I don't like it. Yes, I know there's not a very high chance he's going to change, even if he says he might want to, which we'll put aside for now.
It's very difficult.
So, Aleeza, what do I do? How do I know if this is a deal breaker? We know it's a potential deal breaker, but how do I decide if it's a deal breaker or not?
So here's the thing. For you, it actually was a deal breaker pre-meeting somebody, meaning irritants are what I'm irritated about you, not that I have an irritant list. And if you hit anything on my list, then that's going to bother me.
True.
We get to make up a new list no matter who we're dating.
Yes.
So that was on your own personal list, and it happened to be within the framework of who you were dating. And you said to me, Aleeza, this is actually a deal breaker for me. I said, okay, great. Are you ready to walk away? And you were like, no. She's like, but that was always a deal breaker. So am I compromising? Am I unreasonably compromising for him? And I said, maybe. And so you need to date him for longer to understand, are you going to really be okay with this?
Why? Because with time
comes clarity.
Yes, it does.
Clarity comes in time. You figure it out because you know either everything that's there that I like, I value, and that thing I don't like, it's maybe a very strong, high irritant, but it's no longer a deal breaker because the deal is so much of what I want that I'm going to say, okay, it's not what I want, but it's what I'm choosing to live with. And I'm very, 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 3 times very big into choosing and knowing what you're getting yourself into. So it's not a hafta'a, no surprise, no like poof, oh, I had no idea. I didn't really think about it. No, thank you. I'm not into any of that. I'm into logic. I'm into making your lists. I'm into understanding your thinking. I'm into connecting to your feelings and to realizing what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And I pushed you hard on this, and I kept saying to you, but remember that used to be a deal breaker. And you're like, I know. But it's just not with him. I don't like it. I don't want it. I wish it would be different. But if it never changes, and I don't think it will, I'm not changing my mind to pretend like it'll be okay. Because I've had clients say like, they said they're going to quit. They said they're going to stop that behavior. I said, great. You have to go into this realizing that changing a personal behavior is the hardest thing in the world. Try it yourself. Try to change one of your poor behaviors that you don't like about yourself, that you've been trying to get over for years. You're still working on it. Me too. Me too. I just can't get myself to stop. Or maybe I cut down a little, or maybe I have good days and bad days, or good weeks or good months, but I'm still struggling with it for a lifetime. Yes, there's people with the example of smoking who could go cold turkey and be done. But in general, it's not the way of the world. We all struggle with our own pattern of behaviors and getting a handle on it. So as long as you're okay to be really real with it and to say, it is what it is. It was a deal breaker. I like the package. I'm going to be okay with it. And not in 2 years, and not in 5 years, and not in 10 years, and not in 25 years. You're not going to sit in your house stewing with your arms crossed, being all upset that this person is still doing that behavior. You're not allowed, because you choose today to get into it and to be okay with it. And that means during your relationship in your lifetime, you don't let that make you crazy. I'm really trying to actually not just help people get married. I'm really trying to help them stay married. It's the secret that I don't really tell people. My goal is not for you to.
Is that the goal?
The goal is not for you to get married. The goal is for you to stay married, because getting married, anybody can go get married. Staying married, now that's the really difficult thing. It's very difficult to live with another human being. So when I don't go in with any imagined things going on in my head, and I'm like, oh, that's that thing. Oh, I don't like it. I'm not making him crazy about it. I'm not making me crazy about it. That's it. That's it. I don't like it. I'm never gonna. And don't try to logic yourself into saying, I'm going to be okay with this. I would much rather you say, I don't like it and I'm picking it anyway. That's real.
Right.
That's real. And I value that. And I connect to that. And I can respect that.
And Aleeza, this reminds me of last week's episode where we talked about sometimes you take the stinky stalks because there's enough berry blue and there's enough toasted marshmallow, and it's worth it. And I actually have a client who's going through this right now with smoking, because the person that she is dating smokes, and that was a deal breaker for her before she met him. And so she met him, and what I found really interesting is that she shared with me, so we had this conversation where they spoke about it on their own, and he said he would try. And I do know that in the past, he said for the right person, if it's really important for her, he would be open to stopping, which is beautiful. And yes, anyone could work on an irritant, and many will. And I also told her, I said, you need to know that he very likely will try to stop. And he may even stop for a period of time. But when life gets stressful, as marriage does, as life does, there's a good chance he's going to pick up a cigarette again. You need to go into marriage knowing that. Are you okay with that? That's a decision that you have to make.
Right.
And the second
thing, go ahead.
The second thing that I really remember what you told me, Aleeza, is we're not looking for tolerance, and we're not looking for ignorance isn't the right word. Ignoring it. You're not ignoring it, and you're not tolerating it. You are accepting it. You are saying, I know this is here. I recognize that. I don't like it, and I accept it because this is a part of the package of who this person is. Aleeza, could you throw out a couple more examples of irritants that are not as extreme as smoking or not as big as smoking?
So I'm trying to think of things that would qualify, but let's just say somebody comes from a family who is very on time, and somebody else comes from a family who is very liberal with their time. They're very in flux. Time is very, not so clear. And I think that for some people, it would be a deal breaker. Like it's a sign of disrespect. You don't show up on time, you're not respecting me. You're not respecting my time. You're not respecting who I am. And the other person's like, culturally, it's just what we do. We don't arrive early. We arrive midway through or late, because that's just normal, or that's my norm. So I'm not, it's not, you have to also realize when is something an irritant that's like a personal attack on you, which actually doesn't go in the category of irritants, but you might think it does, versus a person's behavior that irritates you. And that's what an irritant really is. When there's a behavior that irritates you, that's the problem. If you think that somebody's doing something intentionally, just for example, you have a conversation with somebody and every time you talk, they needle you about something like, they make fun of you. They're like, oh, I'm just kidding. Haha. Like, oh, it's just a joke. Right. And they're really like digging and digging, but that's their personality. But their personality is to dig. Yeah, that is personal on you. It's their behavior and it is personal on you. They are making it very personal. But if it's a behavior that's just a behavior, that's not, you have to not take it personally on you and look at it from an objective point of view where, just for example, I'm a fast processor and the person I'm dating is a slow processor. What do I mean by that? I mean, I think about things, I make a decision, boom, move on, right? And this other person is there,
They're still
it feels like
catching
I've
up.
done, they're like way behind. And I'm like, that's what you're thinking about? Like, I thought about that 7 days ago, 7 dates ago, 7 weeks ago, 7 months ago. Like, this is not at all on my mind. Like, that's where you're holding, but we're not even at the same spot. But and it might be irritating for me, but they're not doing it on purpose. They're not processing more slowly on purpose. And I'm not processing quickly to irritate them. It's just kind of how my brain works and it's kind of how their brain works. And if we can get them in sync and understand what's happening, then we don't have to be upset about it, right? I say I'm going to do something.
On their side, they might feel like they're always behind. And why are you trying to show off about how fast you are and how ahead of the game you are? And neither one is better than the other one. It just is what it is. And you make the decision of, I don't think this is something I'm going to be able to handle for the rest of my life. Or I don't like it, but I like you enough. And I'm going to work on myself so I can learn how to handle this. And if I find that it triggers me, I'm going to reach out for guidance so that I have the tools to deal with it when it does. So I don't take it out on you because it's not your problem. It's how I handle it.
Yes. It's how I handle my reaction to your normal everyday behavior of how you live your life. And I want to just be clear. We're never talking about anything that involves abuse or addiction or anything that is inappropriate, unhealthy, that is beyond a level of average, normal, what average people tolerate. And if you're not sure what those categories are, you can for sure be in touch with us. You could be in touch with a mental health professional. If you ever have any questions about that, don't get confused. I had a client once and the guy she was dating told her that it was just very normal that somebody drinks 3 to 4 times a week heavily. And that's just culturally what they do. And I said, that's nice, but that's not a cultural, it is a cultural thing. And it's also called, an alcoholic when somebody has to get drunk or wasted multiple times in a week and can't stop that behavior and chooses to do it over and over again for the last umpteen years. So she said, are you sure? Because he said he could stop when he wants. And I
of course he did.
Right. Of course he did. And of course he doesn't realize where he's at, but that's not a healthy pattern or behavior. And she had never really been around it. So she had nothing to compare. So for her, it was either like nothing or you just do it and that's normal. And I had to explain that wasn't normal. So if you don't know what normal is, we can check you in with any type of behavior and give you a clue about it. Also anger management. Some people do get, they're a little hot to handle and they get heated a little bit quickly and, you can mostly handle it, but people that fly off the handle every time that they're having a conversation with you, it's definitely problematic. And if you're having more downs than ups, it's not an irritant. It is a red flag and it's
especially
different.
If they say that it's your fault. You set them off. You were the one who did this.
Right. If you didn't do this, then I would be fine. Right. If people don't take ownership for their own behaviors, then we have an issue. But going back to irritants, do not start blaming somebody for something that we just told you they're going to do. It's just a normal part of their pattern and behavior.
All
right. I think we did it.
Takeaways. Number 1, an irritant is, oh man, I'm totally blanking. I had my 3 takeaways. 3 takeaways. Number 1, an irritant is something that bothers you. It is subjective. And your dating process is to figure out, is this something I can handle? Number 2, if you decide this is something that I can handle and I can live with, Remember, you are not tolerating it. You are not ignoring it. You are accepting it. And if you accept it, or when you accept it, make sure that you have the tools that you need to handle it. Make sure you have the tools you need to get you through those moments where you find it very triggering and it bothers you, because it will bother you, because it's an irritant.
It will. It will. It's true. Awesome. Okay. And as always, if you need any support, we are here for you. This is what we eat, breathe, and sleep, is supporting people through their relationship ups, downs, challenges, irritants, deal breakers, and everything in between. You can always find an available coach at marriagemindedmentor.com. Besides Sarah and myself, we have an incredible team of 10 plus coaches. They're really outstanding. And if you're like, I don't know, that's too many choices. What do I do? Analysis paralysis. Who do I pick? Just call me. Sign up for a 15-minute session with me, and I will tell you who is the right fit personality-wise, budget-wise, and everything else that you need.
Awesome. And that link is in the show notes, or you can just go to marriagemindedmentor.com and you will see it right there.
Awesome. We'll see you next time.